It's official. Welcome to the second annual Wisconsin, Missouri, and now Utah State Fair Tree. Y'all made it. Again, we made you guys travel all the way out to the Wisconsin Dells. I know yesterday there was a lot of travel, delays and everything, but, just for a one-day meeting. I know many of you that were here last year are probably looking forward to the keto lunch. I know I'm looking forward to it, but makes the trip a little easier. But it's definitely a trek for many of you. So we really appreciate you guys traveling in. We've got people from all over the country. We've got Brett and Alicia from the East Coast, new guests this year. We've got Calvin and Foss coming from down south. Although Foster came from the East Coast too this week, but and then we've got the Utah team and Curtis flying in from the mountains from out west, and we've got Jerry and Pat flying in from Missouri, Kansas City, all that too, and we've got obviously everyone from the local team driving in too. So it's really cool, and yeah, Philip too. Philip from the south. Sorry. We also have district managers here altering their training so they can be here with Bucky and Ab. So glad you guys are here. And we got people coming in last night from SC1. I know many of you showed up at 1:32 a.m. Glad you guys are here too. But we've also got people altering their family vacations. We've got people here a week after their baby was born, burned. Right, so it's there's a lot of people, but I do know, yeah, awesome, congrats. But yeah, I do know one thing about this group, with all these sacrifices that you guys have all made just to be here, this is definitely one of the most epic teams that has ever been assembled in Cutco history. So yeah, last year we had 22 people here. This year 4 of those people are actually not here, right? We're hyper focused on shift average. So it's something to pay attention to. So the people that have the strongest shift averages are the people that are still in this room, right? We love the other 4 people that were here, but their stats were just aren't up to snuff, right? So in order to sell $1 million across 3 fairs, our team needs to have a shift average of $4,100, $4,116, right? For some of you, that sounds like a huge number. It really isn't. There's many people that were doing, leaps and bounds above that. Last year, our team average was 3266. In 2022, it was 2976. So we've been making changes. Last year, obviously, many of you that have been on the Wisconsin and the Missouri State Fair team, you saw some big changes last year. Obviously, there's, new faces this year too. It's going to continue to change. So, we need everybody to prepare as much as possible. So get as much as you can out of this retreat because there's going to be a lot of really good content. So I know none of you have an agenda. Some of you saw it, but we've got Calvin speaking on ultimates. We've got Brett talking about dropping down objections. We've got Philip talking about biz gifts. We're going to do some role play, round tables, but there's a lot of really good content in this room that's going to happen, which is great. If you have a shift average of $2,000 around this fair, don't expect an invitation back next year. And I don't say that to scare you. I say that to prepare you, right? So I believe everyone in this room can definitely have a shift average of well over 2,000. I think this room can have a shift average of 4,000. That's why I think $1 million is possible. I don't know if it's possible this year. We'll see. I do think it is. 900K is the goal, but I do think $1 million is definitely possible this year. But making a jump from 3,200 to 4,100 is a big jump, right? But it's up to you guys, right? So yeah, I say that to prepare our team's getting stronger. So, if you don't step up, somebody else will. So just know that. If you plan to stick around on this team, Curtis, text your wife right now. Make sure you block off the last week in June because this retreat's going to be this week next year, right? So whatever the last Tuesday through Thursday, it might be Tuesday through Friday. So block that out. This is going to be when the retreat is next year. So if you want to be on this team next year, make sure you block out those dates. Right?
You said the last Tuesday.
It's the last week of June. Tuesday through Friday. Block it out. Yep, block it out. So where we have come from. So we did this last year, and the great thing is so this is our first time doing Utah State Fair under my coordination. Obviously, Faith has coordinated for many years, which is amazing. We're excited to help you guys grow out there. Missouri and Wisconsin, we had our best year ever last year. But just so you guys know where we came from, I took these numbers off of Ventalytics and I went back as far as we could. So for Utah State Fair, 2010, we sold $4,500 on 45 orders, right? Wild, right? Yeah, isn't that wild? 2011, 17K on 96 orders. So still pacing, actually average order almost doubled, right? Almost, it's 178, solid. 2012, 17K, 2013, just under 21, 2014, just under 21, 2015, 15K, 30K, 22K, 26K, 21K. The big leap was 2021. Is that when you guys added the second booth? And the booth jumped up to 58,000 on 151 orders. So that was the best year. And then the following year sold 87,000 on 200 orders. So there's a big jump there. And then last year, 86,000. So staying pretty consistent with the year before. So I know looking at those numbers, it's been a lot of local development, a lot of college kids. And I was talking to Faith, Q, and Noah. It's like, yeah, Q and Noah were in college. So it's like a lot of half days because they were in school because it's in September. So I'm really excited to see the team out there. Some of you are wondering about Utah State Fair for shifts. If I talk to you, you know what your shifts are. We're still kind of figuring out booths. I'll talk about that later. But yeah, everyone that is in Utah, Brett, Jared, obviously you guys know you definitely have shifts. And then the other 4 people know who they are. Missouri State Fair, 2012, 17 grand on 89 orders. 2013, 21K, and then 22K, 21K. And then there was a big, pretty good sized jump in 2017, 48,000. Then 2018, 62K, 74K, 84K. 2021 was the first year that I coordinated, 115K. And then last year we did 100, or sorry, I think it was 2022. What was that? I think that's when we did 115. And then 2023, we did 119K last year. That was our best year ever. Adding the second booth, which is great. Wisconsin State Fair, 2010, sold $36 on an order. So I don't know, people didn't know how to tab orders yet. That peeler was sick. 44K in 2011, 40K in 2012, 46K in 2013, 2014, we did 55K. Made a big jump in 2016, 107K. 2017, 207K. We added an extra booth then, added 200 orders. 2018, 213K, 222K, 271K. 271K was the year that we added 2 booths last minute to make 5 booths. And we're just like, whoever's breathing and can work, go ahead and fill in the booth. The following year, which was 2022, we were more strategic with staffing, sold 342K. And last year with the same exact booths, just a couple tinkers and staffing, we grew by $105,000 and sold 457K. It's I think it's number 7 biggest event in the nation last year. So super exciting. So yeah, there's a lot of growth that can definitely happen. Obviously, you can see it over the years. Well, I can see you guys at least heard it. But yeah, just looking at Wisconsin with this group and even Missouri, like in Missouri, obviously, again, being a little more strategic this year with staffing, we can have tremendous amount of growth, even if we have the same amount of booths, right? Even if we only add 1 booth or, whatever, like this room, all of you are very skilled and we can definitely grow these fairs exponentially and, just overnight. So yeah, the vision is $1 million across 3 fairs, right? Goal this year is 900,000. We could definitely shoot for $1 million. 900K is the goal though, right? I do see a day where these 3 fairs are doing $2.5 million. So last year, people did not really know who like the Wisconsin State Fair team was. People kind of knew, but it's like, oh yeah, I think they do decent. I think, Nick, Kevin, and Byrne, those guys do it. Don't know anyone else. Now everyone's like seeking an invitation to the state fair, right? And so, this is the year that our team really makes our mark. So you've all been handpicked by myself, the DVM team, because, we believe this group is really full of abundance. There's people that sell more than some people in this room, but we think you guys are the right people, the right team players. We believe in this group more than anybody. This mission is a team effort. It's not an individual effort, right? So it takes all of us. So, and just another thing to keep in mind, we're only as strong as the weakest player. So, build each other up, and you guys are gonna be surprised what we can accomplish. So let's get this thing rolling. Yeah, so I want to bring up our MC, Vernon B. Williams the fifth. B stands for beautiful. So yeah, Vern is at $2.6 million in career sales. He's got 2 daughters. Ruby was just born last week.
Yeah.
Super exciting. And just something that maybe you guys don't even know about Vern. He's actually a new event manager on our team, which is for people that are new to our group. It's like basically a co-coordinator, but event managers is the title that we give our co-coordinators or assistant coordinators. And Vern is currently working on our mall program, and seriously watch out. Like, this guy's going to build one of the best mall programs in the nation. Nobody's going to see it coming, but we had the #2 mall last year, and this is definitely the guy to build this program. So yeah, bring up Vern.
Thank you. How's everyone doing? This is a great group. Okay, they can see me. So by the way, it is also Mandy's birthday today. So later we're going to call her and we're going to all sing her happy birthday. And she's graciously letting me be here after going through war last week. So yeah, so I'm really excited to MC. Love this group and just love what we're going to build. So our first speaker here, he's at $3 million in career sales. When I asked him what are some of his career highlights, he said, beating Curtis in sales 2 years in a row at the Texas State Fair. Some of his life highlights here, or his family. He has an amazing wife, Alex. When I asked him what his greatest achievement in life, he also said his wife. So I think he's trouble at home. When I asked him what his superhero name would be, he said Green Lantern ? Not sure what that means. Why he loves his job? He loves his job because he can do what he wants when he wants and still grow because of the people that he works with. And when Nick mentioned how we were like one of the top State Fair teams, kind of saw him in the back. He's like, well, maybe second. That's it for teams. So let's bring up Calvin Lopez.
Oh, and all the speakers, I want to be doing my hand signal to let you know about your countdowns and all.
Woo! All right, guys, watch out for those hand signals. No, this is awesome. I'm excited. Obviously, grateful to be here. I'm grateful to work with amazing people. Some of y'all I know, some of y'all I don't. And if I don't know you, we'll get better. Curtis is still a little salty, but it's okay. We're going for that 3-peat this year. So, and then also a shout out to Nick, guys. I don't know if y'all realize what it's like to be a coordinator for large events like this, and what like the time, the effort, and the income that it takes to make something like this happen. So like, thank you for obviously an amazing place, feeding us, making sure everyone's taken care of. Guys, y'all should give him the love he deserves. Like, this is a lot, and it's awesome that he does this for y'all. So they asked me to talk about selling ultimate sets. Obviously we all want to sell more ultimates. I mean, if you don't know, that's one of the easiest needle movers for your business. Like Nick was saying earlier, shift average is a huge thing that people like top event coordinators are focusing on for their team, because like average order is great, but your shift average is really the biggest needle mover for your events program. And if you sell more complete sets, you will have a higher shift average. It's nuts. If you think about that, you're talking 3,000+ CPO, even if you're giving them a deal. So the better you can be at selling those larger sets, the higher your shift average will be. Because again, like he wants that 4K shift average. If you sell one ultimate and a few other small orders, you're already at that 4,100 CPO shift average, and you're already at that $1 million year. So if you could add just 1 or 2 more, or 3 or 4 every day, gosh, like it's a game changer. Because think about it, if you walk into the booth and one of your first sales of the day is a complete set, how good do you already feel? Like everything is just so much better. The worst thing you can do though is like get complacent. So don't get complacent. If you sell that first one, try to sell the second, try to sell the third. like know what you're kind of shooting for. But you got to have that general mindset around those larger orders whenever you're at the booth. I know certain people, especially this year, have probably felt like events have slacked or attendance is lower or whatever it may be. For me personally, I've noticed it, but I haven't had the negative effect of it. Like I'm still up for the year. And I think a lot of it is just because I understand regardless of what's going on in the world, people are still spending money. No matter what we do, no matter what times are, people will still spend money. You got to think about it. They have a $200 to $600 car payment they're paying every month. They have gym memberships or a trip to Costco for groceries for a family is $400 to $500. Sometimes every week, every other week. They're still buying TVs. They're still buying, hot tubs and jacuzzis, and they're getting their windows redone. They're doing all these things that are costing all this money. We just want a piece of that money they're already going to spend. So you got to keep in mind that people are going to spend the money. If you do your job the right way, they'll spend it with you instead of somewhere else. So this doesn't mean we need to be pushy or aggressive people when we're at the booth, but it does mean that we need to create a strong desire for them to want to buy Cutco. And if we do create that desire and it makes sense for them and they can fit in their budget, they will spend the money. And that doesn't just mean on an ultimate set, that means packages and everything else. And remember, people don't buy stuff because they need it. They buy it because they want it. And they buy it because they're going to use it. And they buy it because they like it. Now, at the beginning of the demo, right after covering your power intro in the Cutco, whatever you're doing to kind of get them excited about staying there longer with you, you should introduce the idea of the Cutco kitchen. Just kind of briefly, at least let them know that it's a thing. Our end goal with all of our customers is that they all end up with our Cutco kitchen. I like to keep the brochures on the table. I learned it from Curtis. It's simple. I kind of let them know there's 4 main components. The first one that like 90% of our customers will start with though, is our knife sets. So we just kind of give them a nice little power intro after that. Hey, this is the set that everybody wants, but not necessarily everyone can afford. It's the set that everyone works toward eventually owning though. It's like having a full toolbox for the kitchen, and it just makes sense. Imagine what it would be like if you had every tool for every job and you never had to buy another knife ever again. Like, do you eat meat at all, Mrs. Jones or Mr. Jones, whoever you are? They're always going to say yes. It's like, great, because this set's for our carnivals. This is our barbecuing, our grilling. This is the people that host, they entertain, they have people come over. You're the house that everybody likes to be at. That's why this set makes sense for you. Now, basically what I'm trying to do as quick as I can is plant the seed and kind of create that vision of this is where they're going to end up or this is where they're going to start. It's one or the other, but this is what they want. I want them to already start thinking like, oh, that does make sense. Oh, that's me. Oh, that's what I really need. After that, I'm going to immediately start letting them know, hey, Cutco is not a cheap product. We're a very high-end product. And we all know good things aren't cheap and cheap things aren't good. The great thing about Cutco, though, is that even though we're a very high-end product, we're not a high-maintenance product. So just like I said before with that guarantee and everything else, like it is going to cost you a little bit of money now, but it's not going to cost you anything on the back end. And I think that's why everybody ends up loving it. So for me personally, at this point, I'm going to throw prices out as soon as I can. I'm going to pull out my specials book or my iPad, whatever you're using to show them. And I'm going to let them know like, hey, if this is the set we're looking at and this is the set we're thinking about, like, just so you know, this is what it's going to cost. So the great thing about shopping here at the fair is we do have exclusive pricing and we have special deals that you don't get other places. And that's why a lot of people will wait all year to come here to shop because they know they're going to get a good deal. So normally the ultimate set retails for literally $4,300. We actually have it on sale right now for $37.99. And the great thing is you don't have to pay in full. If you want, you can split it up or you can do it all at once. To us, it's the same thing. If you do split it up, there's no interest, there's no finance, there's no credit. We do this easy pay option. So all you're paying is like what, $700 a month. And at that moment in time, as soon as I've laid that out there, before I really kind of got into what they're getting or anything else, I'm watching how they're reacting. So a lot of times I've noticed a lot of people, when we sell Cutco, we're kind of showing them stuff and we're pointing at stuff and we're looking at stuff and we're looking where we're pointing or what we're showing. I'm trying to look at the customer while I'm pointing at the price, while I'm pointing at the set, while I'm showing them what it looks like and everything else, because I'm looking for those moments of them pulling back or them leaning in, or if they're looking at their spouse, how they're responding to it. So I know in that moment, do I need to lean in or do I need to pivot to something else? Like that's like my moment right then and there. If I'm seeing positive body language and I'm seeing good interaction and they're not just pulling away from me and they're not afraid of what I'm showing them, I know I have an opportunity right here and now that I can lean in and I can probably close this deal. So after I know, and again, especially at high traffic events, this is sometimes where we kind of get stuck on the wrong thing. So that's why I'm taking this moment to do that. You got to remember, at a state fair especially, there's thousands and thousands of people. Even on a weekday, a weekend, it doesn't matter. There's plenty of opportunity. So I want to know right then and there if this is where I need to spend that extra 5 or 10 minutes to try to close this deal, or if I need to go ahead and pivot so I can move to the next one. But if I get the positive things I'm looking for, I'm going to lean in and I'm going to go for it. So when after I know, okay, yeah, they're interested, there's possibility, like, let's go ahead and start focusing on what I'm going to start going through, like what comes in the set, what they're actually getting, and I'm going to start trying to make it make sense for them. When it comes to names and uses, like we all know, you don't need to tell them what every single knife does for the ultimate set. The ultimate set is almost more of a concept that they're going to buy than it's like me needing to give them all the nitty-gritty details for every little piece. So I will focus mainly on the pieces that only come in the ultimate set. I'm going to focus on the cleaver. I'm going to focus on the boning knife. I'm going to focus on the salmon knife. I'm going to focus on the veggie knife, the 4-inch paring, specific things that I know I can get excited about. The ones I'm going to give them the most time on are the knives I know I can sell the best. So I'm not going to sit here and say, you should focus on this knife or this knife or this knife. You know what your skill set is, and you know how good you are at specific things. So where can you create the most excitement, and where's that 1 or 2 products that you know, like, hey, I can close this, I can get them excited about this, and I can use that enthusiasm to kind of go through the rest of it to get them excited about the whole idea. Of course, I'm going to talk about a cheese knife, and I'm going to talk about a hardy slicer. I will cut a potato 100%. Some people do, some people don't. If you don't cut food, that's fine, don't. For me, I like to cut it because, again, at the high traffic events, I want them to believe Cutco's amazing. I want them to get that excitement. I want to show them as quick as I can. And I've noticed when I cut food, it helps my demo go that much faster. And I don't have to spend that extra 5 or 10 minutes on the back end to continue to really build up why they should get it. When they cut that potato, you know, it's just like a no-brainer at that point. Now, I'm not trying to sell you on you should cut food or not, but for me, that's just what I've noticed works the best. And you should always do what works best for you. Don't get attached to like, I have to do it this specific way. You should know what your strengths are. I'm at that point also, once I start kind of getting into things, I'll skim the homemaker pieces. I'm like, hey, you're still going to get your carving set. You're still going to get your extra chef knife. You're still going to get your utility knife and your everyday pieces. And that's what these are over here. I use display boards, so I have my whole ultimate set. They can see it. So I'm letting them know like it's this stuff and it's this stuff. And I'm very much using my hands to kind of position like, so this is what actually comes in your set. After that, one of my favorite little lines on the steak knives, because you know they're always like, oh, do you want table knives or steak knives? If they're like, oh, I want table knives, I'm like, hey, that's awesome. Just so you know, the reason a lot of people go with the steak knives instead is because when you buy your flatware later, it comes with 12 of our stainless steak table knives. So I don't know, a lot of people don't like to have two different versions of the same knife. So a lot of people like having your full size steak knives and then your everyday table knives with your dinner. And then it's the other line of, hey, and this is the cool thing. This is the only set that actually comes with a full set of 12. So you're not having to buy extras that have that full set of 12. So when you have people over. So again, I'm trying to build in as much value as I can. I'm trying to get them as excited as I can. I'm trying to make sure they take everything away from this so that way they know, hey, this is the best opportunity for me. This is the best set I should get. This is the one that makes the most sense. And then at that point, I'm going to start kind of trying to dip into those value phrases. Because once I've really shown them everything, we've looked at the idea of it. We know what we're getting. We have our back pocket stuff. Then I'm going to cut the penny. I'm always saving the penny for the big, again, wow factor before I really start to try to close. I know we were trained to kind of cut it early and cut it quick, but at that point, really the first thing I'm doing is cutting leather with them. That's my first wow factor. That's my first tie down. That's what I'm using to anchor. After that, I've already cut a potato with a couple of different pieces and they know like, okay, this is, oh my gosh, everybody has to have scissors. Now, I'm going to start asking those questions again, you know, hey, so which of y'all does the most of the cooking? Is it you? Is it him? Oh, okay, it's him. Who does the grilling? Is it you? Is it him? I never assume it's the husband. Guys, don't make that mistake these days. Sometimes it's the husband who's the cook and the wife who does the grilling. For me, my wife does all the grilling and all the cooking. I'm just lucky. And I always tell them that too, you know, we'll crack the jokes. But at that time, it's like, okay, let's start seeing what's kind of their holdback or where their interest really is at this point, because now I've kind of done everything I can. I've gone through all the motions with them. And I'm going to start trying to throw in like, hey, I know it's expensive. It is a lot of money. But you got to remember, this is one of those things that you're going to have forever. You're going to pass it down to the kids. This is going to be basically a family heirloom. If we need to, we can actually throw a nameplate on there with a family name. So that way, when you pass it down, they always remember where it came from. Also, you got to think about it. If you're doing a remodel or if you're doing something else for the kitchen, it just makes sense. Don't you deserve to have the best knives. Like I always like to say, hey, you deserve this, or hey, don't you deserve this? Because they feel good about it. And then I'm like, hey, one of the other cool things that we're doing exclusively here at the fair is whenever you do get your full set, we actually let you get a few bonus items on top of our corporate discounts. So we actually let you pick a few things. You can either pick like a couple of our gadgets, or do you do any outdoor hunting or fishing or any activities like that? So I'm trying to gauge where's the best thing to kind of give them that extra incentive. If it's just a few gadgets like a can opener, pizza cutter, hey, these are those things that you $10 yourself to death over. So a lot of people really love the fact that they can buy the ones that actually work, because you're always buying that new ice cream scoop or that new can opener because it never works after the second time you use it. So what are those ones that give you the most frustrations? And I will always pick them up and kind of hand them out to them. Like I have all 5 in my hand and I'm going to show them. So I'm like, what are you going to get the most use out of here? If you were to pick like your top 2 or 3 favorites, what would it be? And I'm sure we've all had that moment where they're kind of on the fence. That's where I'm going to try to pivot to like, okay, maybe I can give you a lockback or a hunting knife or a fillet knife or something like that. So if they're not very interested in those at all, that's kind of my other option. If they're really not interested in either, and I really want to close the deal, I'll give them the kitchen tools. Like for me, I'm not going to let pride stand in the way of my paycheck. If I have to give them a little something extra to make it happen right now, I would rather than buy this set right now than try to not give them that little extra incentive to close the deal. Now, I'm not going to try to give away the kitchen sink, but I'm willing to do what I have to do in the moment. Now, and then again, reassuring them on everything else, like, hey, I know you mentioned you're in the market for good knives, and if you did see something you really like, and I can really get you a good deal on it, and you could fit it into the budget, would you be comfortable making a decision without the spouse? So like if you're dealing with just one or the other right then and there, that's a good way to kind of ask them just to know like, hey, do I have an opportunity to close it? Are you going to really use that spouse objection to just not make this happen right now? So it's kind of asking them if they're okay with that. So that way, when it does come up later, you don't have to deal with it. But we want to empower them to make that decision on their own. Like, Brandon kind of talked about this at one of his talks at NEC, but it's like, hey, it's safe to say, you know your wife better than anyone else, right? If she was here and she just saw the demo and you knowing her as well as you do, what do you think she would actually say? She would probably just tell you to go ahead and get it. It's like, okay, cool. Plus, we do have that 30-day money back guarantee. So y'all can actually use everything at home together. Make sure she sees why you decided to make this purchase. And if you're not happy, all you have to do is text me or call me. We'll send you a return label. We'll give you a full refund, no questions asked. Just so you know, though, what ends up happening, you love it and you keep it and you end up buying everything else that we make. Just want to make sure you're forewarned for that. And they always kind of laugh. But then you want to give them that reassurance at the end. Like, hey, now then again, this is the Curtis, like the famous Curtis let go, basically. Now remember, when you buy cut today, you're buying something that's going to last you a lifetime. Not only your lifetime, but something that you can pass down generation to generation. And if you don't want it after using it for just those 30 days, you can always send it back and get a refund, but we know you're going to love it and you're going to have it in your family forever. Now, the big idea whenever it comes to selling these larger sets and you're trying to pitch these ultimates, you want to really make sure that you're not showing the ultimate with the idea of trying to sell them a signature or a holding. Like I've seen that so many times where a lot of people will use the ultimate as the positioning so that way they can close them on a smaller set. Like our goal here isn't to sell them a smaller set. Our goal here is to sell them the set that we're trying to show them. And again, we ask these customers for permission. We ask them for the idea of, hey, if you were to pick a set, like, because the way I normally will do it, hey, if you were to pick one of these sets, which one do you think would fix your kitchen the best? And you always get those people, oh, the big one. And those are the people, okay, let me show you the big one. If I do have to drop down, I'm not afraid to do that. I'm not saying I won't do that, but like, again, my intention is if this is where we're starting, this is what I'm trying to close for you. Now, I got confused by Vernon's timing, so I thought, at least that I did. But like, so the idea behind it is really just to kind of show the bigger sets, be confident that they're willing to purchase it from you. And remember, like, how many of y'all have actually sold ultimates at your events? How many of you have sold ultimates at your events? Okay. How many of y'all have had more than one in a day? Wow, isn't that a great day? Anybody had 3? Ooh. Anybody had 4? Hey, 5? I'm scared stuff. So it's just the whole idea behind it is we want them to feel comfortable. We want it to make sense. We're not afraid to give a deal if we need to, but we don't want to give it a sink. And then also always keeping that backdoor option of like, hey, here's the really extra little bonus thing we do. Just so you know, like one of the things that comes with the set, your cutting boards, your sharpener and everything else. Like we all know how to kind of go through them, but like Okay, the great thing about the cutting boards, they have the same forever warranty. They actually all have a ring around them, so it's a juice catch, so stuff doesn't spill over whenever you're cutting them. They're all raised, so you can slide a plate underneath them, so that way if you need easy food transfers, and if you reverse stack them, they're easy to store, so they don't take up a whole lot of space. The sharpener is really cool. And I almost downplay the sharpener. Like, hey, it's really great for all your straight edge knives. So if you need quick touch-ups, it's really simple to have it. You probably won't use it very often because remember, I come with your purchase, so I'm going to be your knife guy. So when you need that sharpening and that service and everything else, remember, we're going to take care of it for you. So if you don't ever use it, you can't get mad at me for that, right? Like I want to know, like, oh, hey, he's going to give me good service. But the reality is, like, we don't have to overcomplicate something that can be very simple. So show it often, show it more. And the more strikes you take at it, or the more opportunities you take at it, the more often you're going to close them. But other than that, that's what I got for it.
Yeah, I definitely meant to flash my 10 twice. Something like that. Awesome. Who's got some takeaways from that? Curtis, did you take notes on that, by the way? Okay. Say, wait, Lucky, sorry, did you have your hand up?
Oh, yeah. The end one just said like, don't overcomplicate that so simple. You know, so keep it simple.
That's right. Good.
Watch how they react when you are talking about the price.
Oh, that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had that down too.
To their body language so that you can pivot quickly if their body language is what you're looking for or not what you're looking for.
Pivot, Brett.
Don't show the set or package just for the sake of the drop down. So obviously, if you're talking to somebody, you made a prejudgment, they're like, oh, I probably can't afford an open. Let me talk about this homemaker that's $2,000 less. So just if you're showing a set, be confident showing that set, and then you have to drop down and you let them tell you.
Yeah, it's awesome. Nick.
Planting that seed when you buy your flatware later, one full size steak knives, because then you don't get,
Yeah. Yeah, whenever you guys like get a nugget, you should like let the speaker know. You know, like in black churches, you're like, amen, you know, you're not. So you can be like nugget, or you can be like, you know, this, or like, you know, like hit yourself, you know. Amen's good. Amen's good. All right. Reach on. All right. Philip, did you have something? Yeah. That was it. Awesome. Hey, yeah.
Well, last thing I have to say with the gadgets, when you're $10 your sorrow to death, oh my God, I love that.
Yeah.
Major nugget.
That was good. That's awesome.
What did you say?
Oh.
Yourself to that? Yep, with the gadgets.
That was good, yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't like specifically point this out by offering we give some free gifts on top and almost let them pick it out as soft gifts. That's what he, so when you move to the closing, they basically already said yes to the setup.
Yeah.
That was about getting out.
And he strategically set on corporate.
Yeah, corporate discount,
Right.
very special. Corporate.
Awesome. Any others? Perfect, great. One thing too that I just wanted to mention, and this is also for me, is just obviously when we're all taking notes, especially for the newer ones here, is just making sure that you're putting time in your calendar to study your notes afterwards. A consistent theme that I've heard this year is that you're not entitled to growth. You have to earn it every single year. So just make sure that this doesn't become another, you know, file in your Google Drive or just, you know, notes that just collects dust, you know, over time. So awesome. Well, cool. Well, we'll move on to the next one here. Any other takeaways from that?
I really like how he downplayed the sharpener because I come with the purchase.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I'll be your knife guy.
Yeah, and the best part, you get me, Mrs. Jones. All right. So here. Okay, so next we got Mr. Brett Kramer talking about objections and dropping down. He's at $3.5 million in sales. His top career highlights an 82K SC2 push. When was that? 21. That's awesome. 100K this year?
No, I'll be away in Europe right after this.
Oh.
It's not going back
Yeah.
on.
Excuses, Brad, excuses. All right. He is one of 4 siblings, married, and with two awesome Bengal cats. I love seeing them on his Instagram and TikToks. One of his best personal highlights: buying a house and on his own at 25 years old. That's pretty sweet. And let's see. Oh, when I asked him for his superhero name. No, I gotta find him. Like, if he doesn't give me an updated one, this is the one I'm using. He did not, so I'm going with the one that you texted me. Get bitches, man. That's the first is like, I don't know what this means. I'm like, if you had a superhero name, what would it be? And that was what his response was. I'm like, you sure you want to go with that? I'm like, all right, if you don't give me an update, I got to go with what you told me. So what would be your stance for that? But all right. So I asked him, why does he love his job? He loves his job because of time, freedom, and the ability to build client relationships, the ability to contribute to a lot of different people across the company. And when I asked him, why is he passionate about giving this talk? He said it's because of the long-term ripple effect this layer can have on the lives of the people in this room. So let's bring up Brett Kramer. He's probably also one of the best ballers in our company as well. One of the best ballers in our company as well. I think that's the confusing part.
All right, guys, and I do have 30 minutes?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, awesome. All right, so I'm happy to be here. I'm super excited to be invited. I told Nick, I was like, aside from the Big E, which is like my region, not too far, it's the first big event, aside from the rodeo that got messed up a few years ago with COVID, but excited to be here. And again, thank you for doing all this. This place is awesome. I know we're all super excited to be here and have a thing planned out for us, so it's really nice. So when Nick asked me to speak about a couple different things, so handling objections and dropping down, those are both can be hour-long talks within themselves. So I've had a few different messages over the years that like I've put together for specifically dropping down and handling objections. So I have a couple that I'm combining here. I'll try to give about 15 minutes on each, just so I don't go back and forth. I'm going to start with handling objections, and then I'm going to go to the dropping down part. And it's a great segue for dropping down from talking about ultimates, because no matter how many times we want to sell ultimates, how many ultimates we want to sell in a day, we know not that every single person coming up to the booth is going to buy an ultimate. So how do you get to that next step down, or still get them to get a trimmer, to get them to get something in the home, so that when they come back next year, they do buy a set, they do buy business kits, they do buy something because you got that one piece in the home. One of the first things I learned literally in training was a trimmer today is better than a homemaker tomorrow. We know that. And that's one of the things that stuck with me since 2013.
Amen.
So for objections, before I get into this, when I did this originally, I did like 10 common ones. So I picked out 5 of the ones that I think will be the most help. But before I get to that, there's 3 keys to take note of before actually handling the objections. So 1, you have to keep your composure at all times, especially if you're a newer guy. Remember when you're first in your training, you're reading through a training manual and you're like, oh, do you want a homemaker? And they're like, oh, no, it's okay, thank you. And then you're like, oh, what do I do now? Like, I just read through my whole training manual, I did my job, and you don't know what to do. So obviously, as us being more seasoned reps, we know how to keep our composure. But if that customer comes up and has like an objection you haven't heard, or you're like not really used to, you have to make sure you've heard it like a million times. You have to be able to hear it, keep the composure, because the person with the stronger levels of energy is going to be the one that's going to come out on top. So that's why you'll notice the people who are the best at selling Cutco are the ones typically that slow it down, and every word has purpose and every word has meaning. I know when I'm giving a message, sometimes I'll speak a little bit faster because we'll have that time constraint. But a lot of times, like I said, when I've mentored with Brandon a couple of years, I've field trained out there, but speaking slowly, eloquently, and having the right words and saying the most amount of things with the least amount of words is the best way to do it. So that one is, like I said, keep your composure no matter what objection comes up, no matter what comes out of their mouth, and you are ready to go. So for two, make sure you are asking a lot of questions, because those are things that you keep in your back pocket for when you need them at the end on how to close them, or you mention what they had said to you, because understanding the customer, the more you understand them, the easier it is going to be to get them to trust you and to sell that set. The more questions you ask, the more info you gather, the better picture you have of that customer. They could be like, oh yeah, I want that Ultimate, and they know nothing about Cutco. You go through a whole pitch and like, oh, I thought that set was like $200. And that's happened if you don't pre-frame it the right way. I guess, Ms. Jones, each knife in here costs $5 to make. And we still profit, right? So, and then one of the other things, this is if both spouses are there, husband and wife, whoever it is, get them both talking regardless of who the decision maker is. Even if the husband is the one that makes the money and cooks all the food, you still want the wife's input. It's still a joint decision. Same thing, if the wife cooks all the food, makes all the money, whatever it might be, it doesn't matter, but you get both people talking. We don't always have the luxury of having husband and wife there at the same time, whether it's at an event, an in-home appointment. Like, it's ideal to have both people there, because we know when we're asking people to spend thousands of dollars, it's not always just as easy as, all right, yeah, let's do it. There's different things that come into play. It could be finances. It could be, would I use this? Do I like it? So there's a lot of things that sometimes do have to be spoken about, and it's a lot easier when they are both there together. So you want to get them both talking. So then that's why this last point here, opinions are always important. So it's never a bad idea to get the other spouse's approval. Sometimes all you have to ask is, like, you could be going, maybe the wife is the timid one and you're talking to the husband the whole time and you're trying to get that yes. And like, he's not answering because you know what the wife thinks. And you directly ask her, like, so, I mean, do you think he would actually use this set? I know you say he does most of the cooking and the barbecuing, you do some of the baking, but like, if you had this set, would you both kind of get use out of it? And you finally get her to say a word, like she says yes, you'd be like, cool. So like, Mr. Jones, I know you said that you would like it, it fits the budget, seems like your wife's on board, you make sure you're bringing her into it or bringing the other person into it. Like, so you want to do something like that? Does that work for you while we're here with the extra specials that we're offering at the fair? And then again, you get the answer, you close it, you drop down, whatever you have to do, but now all three of you are on the same page. So there's just 3 quick things to take care of before handling the objections. So again, keeping your composure, asking those questions throughout, making it a dialogue rather than, making it a dialogue rather than a monologue, and then get everybody involved. And again, so there's been times too, there's like that 7-year-old, hey, you want to see something cool? You keep them involved so they're not trying to drag their parents away. So for 5 common objections, well, a couple are common, a couple aren't so as common, but I wanted to get these 5 in so I could do the first half of this and then go down to the dropping down. And when I am in dropping down, you'll see that that's handling objections as well. So this one is, I just don't want to spend that much. And that's not necessarily I can't afford it or I don't want it. It's like, it's vague. So you have to figure out why they don't want to spend that much. I feel like this isn't an objection that's like talked about too much when it comes to like, yeah, I just can't afford it or I just don't want to do it. Whatever it is, I just don't want to spend that much. So then you have to dig. Ms. Jones, is it because you don't see the value in Cutco or because you just don't want to spend that much money on knives? Those are completely different. If they don't see the value, then either you didn't do a good enough job in delivering the value, or they're just those people that have been going to Walmart for all these years. So you have to ask the question, you have to figure out, because that's what's going to lead you to the next things you have to ask and the other things you have to figure out. And then again, you sympathize with them or empathize with them. I get it, it's a lot of money, but Ms. Jones, being able to invest in a quality set of knives once and having the peace of mind that you never have to buy the knives again would be great, right? It's a yes question. It's an easy thing to say. I wouldn't agree with that. You have to create, if there's still, like I said, if you didn't close them yet, you have to create more urgency in the value or create more pain or maybe give them a better deal. And everybody's different, so you have to find out which one it is. Sometimes a combination, sometimes it's all three. But knowing what to do with that is because you would ask all those questions beforehand. So yeah, I just don't want to spend that much. Figure out why they don't want to spend that much. 2, let's walk around and think about it. All the time, especially at state fairs. We know that people who didn't get our postcards or come specifically to this, we know people didn't come to the fair to spend thousands of dollars on their kitchen stuff. They came to get some corn dogs, they came to go on rides, and all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, I'm gonna come here to spend $3,000 today. But they still do, because we're good at what we do. So let's walk around and think about it. Say husband and wife are both there. They want to talk. Maybe they don't want to talk in front of you. And again, that could be one of those things learned from Seth years ago. You go get your drink of water, you look for something fake under the table, give people space. But before that, it's like, Ms. Jones, you could definitely do that. I totally understand it. But in my experience, just a lot of people don't get a chance to make it back because this is the biggest fair in the East Coast, the biggest fair in Texas. Millions of people, so many vendors. And honestly, I've worked in this event for years and I get lost. So a lot of people plan to come back, but sometimes they just aren't able to. The best place to think about it is usually right here while the knives are in front of you, so you make an informed decision. And then you can still ask me any of those extra questions you had while they're on your mind right here. So let me ask you this. Do you feel like if you had this set in your kitchen, you would get use out of all the pieces in it? If they say yes, great, you're still on the right set. If they say no, maybe they're not using half the pieces, it's not about the money. So then you figure out which way you have to pivot. And can I make a suggestion? You let them know that you don't care what they buy, as long as that you get them something, because they do need it. As they've mentioned to you, that they'll say their knives suck. Ms. Jones, I'm unattached to whether you get this whole complete set or just a few pieces today. I just want you to get something you feel comfortable with that'll solve your problems in the kitchen. So I could show you this small little 5-piece and we could always upgrade you from there later. And then again, that's where you have your brochures out, have everything ready to go. So you make them feel good about getting something. And that's going to be, obviously we'll talk a little bit more about the dropping down part. Can I show you what that would look like just for fun before you head out? And again, you say before you head out, because that's like, oh, you could definitely leave if you want. I'm gonna allow you to leave, but let me just write this down for you too. And then again, you're still using the B back pad to stall and ultimately close. So different ways to handle the let's walk around and think about it, but mainly you want them to think about it, talk about it while they're there, even if you're in the background, to give them some space. So this next one is a little more specific, and it could be with anything. This one I'm going to say we're going on vacation. We just got back from vacation. It could be any expense. We just fixed our car, whatever it is, but I'm using vacation as an example. It's a smokescreen objection if they can afford it. If you have already established that it works for them and they could make it work, then that's just something they're saying because they're maybe not ready to tell you the real objection. So Jones, I hear you. Sounds like a fun trip that's coming up, but there's never a perfect time to buy Cutco. There's always gonna be another expense or something else coming up on the horizon. I just know the best time to buy Cutco is at the fair while you're here because of the specials that we have and because Cutco prices are always going up. And I always tell people who are saying, oh yeah, we'll buy it next year. We've been thinking about it for years. I always let people know that I know the exact price of when I started in 2013. Like, Ms. Jones, this homemaker was $1079 in 2013. Now it's over $1,600. You said you've been thinking about for 5 or 6 years. If you keep waiting, not only is it gonna get more expensive, you're still using the same knives you're not happy with for these years and years and years. So wouldn't it make sense just to bite the bullet? So, knowing that you have that vacation coming up and all that entails, could this still work for you if you really wanted to? Again, you probably already qualified that before, you let them know before, but you're just asking them again. Because I guess gets them to think, it's like, yeah, I know that vacation is gonna be expensive, but if I buy knives, it's not gonna stop me from going on vacation. The same thing when they're doing a kitchen renovation. Ms. Jones, I know kitchen renovations cost 30, 50, 100 grand.
is 51 grand or 52 grand gonna stop you from buying this set or stop you from finishing that kitchen? If that countertop costs an extra 3,000 more than you thought, would you not do it? No, you're gonna finish the kitchen the way you want it to, the way you wanted to, and the way you planned it to. And then to reward them for doing it because they're like, weren't gonna do it because of the vacation. It's like, oh, awesome. So what I'm gonna do for you for helping me out today while you're here, instead of waiting till when you get back in a couple weeks, is blank. Give them the gadgets, give them the kitchen tools, give them whatever you need, but just rewarding them for doing it while they're here. Because we know if you follow up, you might not get a hold of them, might not work, or again, they're not excited 2 weeks later, or they spent a lot more than they thought on vacation. Whatever it is, you're not going to get it. 99% chance of you getting it at the booth as opposed to following up later on big sets like that. Because almost none of us are probably following up on the a clubmates order, a single clubmates order, not talking about business games. So get that set there. So now this is obviously one of the ones that happens all the time because it comes to affordability, obviously. If everybody could afford Cutco, everybody would have Cutco. So I just can't swing the payments or I can't afford it right now. We've heard many different variations of this, ways to handle this. This is the way I'm typically going to do it. So again, you let them know you understand them, you repeat it. It's like I say, I totally get it. It's definitely not cheap. So what you're saying is you like Cutco, believe it's worth the investment, but it just doesn't fit right now. Again, you're asking those questions because you're hammering home like why they should get it and why they were letting you know that they do like it and why they give you the time of 10, 20, 30 minutes at your booth. So again, so what you're saying is you like Cutco, believe it's worth the investment, but it just doesn't fit the budget right now. And they say yes. Okay, cool. Just so I know, if you saw a package, I use this all the time because this qualifies people and lets them know if you could actually close them today. Just so I know, if you saw a package that you really liked, you'd use everything in it, and it fit the budget, is that something you'd be willing to try out today? And you say try out because we have the 30-day money back here. It's not like set in stone that they have to keep it, but at least try it. And I know from Net, Curtis, it was you, I think, you were saying you don't like the word budget, right? I like the word budget. I still use it. I use it in a couple of those lines, but I mean, I still like it, so I'm still use it. I'm just bringing it up because I know Curtis is probably like, saying that. Because I just like the way it sounds better than if you could afford this. I just like the verbiage a little better. But however anybody's comfortable, do how you feel it. Yeah. Okay, and then so after would you be willing to try out today? It's like, cool, here's a different option that you might like a little bit better. And again, that's going to go into that dropping down because they literally can't afford it. Like you can't sell them a set that they can't afford. I go back and forth. All right. And then one of these other ones, kind of one of the BS ones and reasons why they definitely need Cutco is, hey, we already have so many knives at home. It's so dumb. It's like, totally, Ms. Jones, you're probably like most people who have a bunch of different knives from different department stores over the years. Do you have like a junk drawer full of knives or to the older block sets, mix match of all that stuff? And they're like, yeah, like, so Ms. Jones, is it because you really love knives? Or is it because the knives you keep buying keep dulling out and rusting and crapping out on you really quick and you just haven't thrown them out? So you let them know that like, they're the problem. It's like, this is why you have so many knives. You say it in like a nice way like that. Do you think it's because of this? It's like you're like a therapist getting them to realize that it's their fault.
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, like, so I didn't even have that written down here, but that's usually what I say. So it's like, so is it, Ms. Jones, do you think you have all those knives in your drawers and the older block sets because like you just really like knives and you keep buying them? Or is it because you keep buying the stuff from the department stores that's just going to ultimately crap out on you and you just haven't thrown them out yet? And I tell people, like when I do in-home service calls, it's like, there's plenty of times where I'm talking to people and they do their spring cleaning and clean out their drawers while I'm there because they realize they haven't used this stuff in 5 years or 10 years. Like, Ms. Jones, give it to Goodwill, give it to, throw it out, give it to the, put it up for scrap metal, whatever it is, get rid of it safely or give it to somebody who can use it. Get rid of those 100 knives to get 10 good ones. And then the last questions with that, as you're hammering it home, wouldn't it be amazing just to clean out all the drawers and have one great quality American-made set that you never have to worry about again? Wouldn't you agree it would be better to have a handful of quality knives in the kitchen than a ton of random average knives? So at the same point, you're asking all these questions that are essentially yes questions and hitting the pain points all at the same time. So those are the five objections that I think are usually pretty important and things that we're going to hear all the time. And typically the way I handle them, there is a handle a bunch of different ones, but that's the way I like to do it. There's no right or wrong way. Well, there's definitely a wrong way, but there's a lot of right ways. So, Brent, I got about 15. Ooh, all right. So dropping down is gonna be a little quicker. All right. So,
But we're ahead of schedule.
okay. So for dropping down, typically 3 reasons why I'm having to drop down. This is talking about like a set, not a price. Because most people who know me, especially in the Northeast, they know that since I've been selling Cutco, I've always been about selling at the value, no discounts. I'll give my customers deals on sales and everything like that, but for selling Cutco for what it's worth, at the value. So this is gonna, again, most of you dropping like to a lower set, not being like, hey, yeah, I'll take $100 off or $200 off to close it. So first reason, again, why you're dropping out, if they can't afford it. If you're talking about an ultimate and they clearly can't afford it because they tell you like, no, that I'm can't even close to that, can't even fit those in the payments, signature, homemaker, whatever it is. So if they can't afford it, that's why you're dropping down the first reason. And the way you find that out is simply ask, if you really wanted to, could you make this set work? They say, no, you got to go to the next, especially if you see that they still are a prospect, not a suspect. Next reason, say you're at the event, like just reality hits. They weren't expecting to spend that much. So it's like, all right, cool. Let's get you something. Let's get you a 5-piece. Let's get you a galley. We don't have to get the ultimate right away, but we can get you that down the road or when you come back next year, they're there. We do half now and half later. And then time, if you have a short period of time, you need to get past that barrier. They have the 5-year-old pulling them away. They're going to see a show. They're going to see the trucks. They're going to see the horses, whatever it might be, just to get them, because it's a lot easier to close a couple pieces or a few pieces than a full set or a package. So again, if you're short on time. So how do you drop down without losing value? Because like Calvin did an awesome job. He's like, crush the ultimate, crush those ultimate pieces. Now they're so excited about those ultimate pieces. But like now it's like, oh crap, now I gotta try to sell them a signature or a homemaker, and they're not getting any of those pieces that I just raved about that everybody should have. So how do you drop down without losing that value? So Jones, a lot of my customers do this that are in your situation. Can I share something with you that a lot of them do here at the fair? And then again, you go drop down to whatever set you have to do, and then show them that how you can upgrade afterwards or how you can do a 10 pay. Because dropping down doesn't necessarily mean you're getting to a smaller set. Maybe dropping down is making those payments lower because you're doing the homemaker on the first part of the order and that flatware is part of your package deal on that second part of the order. So dropping down doesn't even always mean changing the order. Maybe it's lowering the payments and getting that second order down the road for 5 months and just still getting that, that confirmation. And for the people that are like, oh, if I was going to do it, I'll do the whole thing. One of the stupidest objections, one of those annoying objections. It's like, Ms. Jones, I want a Ferrari. Can't necessarily afford a Ferrari. I'm not going to drive. Still going to get my Honda. Still going to go with that homemaker. And then I'm going to save up and get the Ferrari. I still need to drive. I still need to cook every day. So analogies are always great. For anybody who golfs, my golf analogy, I put it right towards a signature set. There's 14 golf clubs in a golf set. There's 14 pieces in a signature set. It's like you want to have the right tool for the right job. You're not going to use your driver on the putting green. You're not going to use your putter at the tee box. And again, people who golf, they're like, yeah, that's true. Like you could use your putter the whole round. It's going to suck. That's like if you just buy a chef knife and use it for every single thing, every single day. So a qualifying question. So you really like the knives, you would use them, you're going to get them eventually, and you see the quality. So the only reason you're not getting today is because of the price. Again, make sure you know what the reason why they're getting. So if I could show you a solution that involves you getting a set of Cutco with the pieces you wanted at a lower price point, would that be something you'd be open to considering here today at the fair? And I even sometimes say, like, obviously here at the fair, or here at the booth, like right now, like, because here at today at the fair could mean, yeah, we'll come back in a couple hours, like, while you're here at the booth right now. Because again, you're pinning them down a little bit without being pushy, because you're still asking them a permission question. And then for most people who are serious, they will say yes. It's like, oh, maybe they did such a good job selling those ultimate pieces, but it's like just so far out of their budget. Like, oh, well, we actually have a set that's actually great for you guys. It's actually called our gourmet set. So now they're still getting all those pieces that you hyped up, except for the cheese knife. Sell them that gourmet set. Add 4, 6, or 8 steak knives on it. It's in Dante's binder now. Like, it's right there. And then you were saying the cheese knife and the hearty slicer, when you talk all the time, you get the cheese knife free on that. So you get them the deal. They still get everything they want. Get them the sheath. Maybe put some shears with a holster on it. So they're still getting some of the best stuff. And then again, they'll upgrade next year. And then the little verbiage with that, it's like when you're dropping into that smaller set, it's like, hey, out of these pieces here, what are the 1, 2, or 3 pieces you would use the most? In that case, let me show you this set. So let's say you were going from the ultimate to the signature. It's like, all right, great. Let's start with the signature because it's $1,000 less, and I'll still get you those 2 fillet knives that you really wanted. And Ms. Jones, I don't normally recommend this, but because those are like the thin knives, you can even fit those in a couple of slots with the big enough so everything's in your block. Or you get them the sheets because we have the sheet now. But salmon knife, boner knife easily fit in the slot with the butcher knife without even touching. So you can still make them feel good about getting a really nice set they wanted, just missing those fillet knives of that because maybe they didn't necessarily need the cleaver. Because again, after that, if you give them the fillet knives and they don't want the cleaver, a vegetable knife is my favorite, but again, they have 2 choppers already. They have a shorter pair knife and they have a longer bread knife. So now most people are looking, when you ask the question, it's like, hey, which set do you think would probably be the best for you? This is before going into any pricing. So at homemaker, signature, ultimate right there. I would say most people are looking at a homemaker. Most people aren't the biggest chefs, but like just a size block, because that's what they're used to when they buy them in stores. So if you're going from like a homemaker and they're like, it's way out of the range, you try to get to like a 5-piece with table knives, 5-piece with shears, whatever it is. It's like, just curious, I know you really wanted this set, but you didn't plan on spending $1,600 on knives when you walked into the fair today. I think I have a solution that will help you spend a lot less money, but still get you some of the best pieces. Is that something you'd be open to seeing? Permission questions, all that, drop down, and great. And all of a sudden, 5-piece specials now are still 500 CPO. It's like, it's great. And then it still gives you the opportunity to upsell those table knives or upsell the shears or upsell gifts or outdoor things. We have so many things we could sell. But just by getting that yes first and getting the credit card, you're able to go up from there. And if you're doing like a custom 5-piece, I have in my notes here, husband and wife are both there. Again, you want to get them both talking. Have the husband pick 2 pieces, have the wife pick 2 pieces, and then they pick the 5th piece together. Because if they're all on the same page and they're both using, they're both made value out of it. And then a couple of things that I did just this past weekend. You know, those people that come up to the booth, they're like so excited, like, oh, Cutco, I've been thinking about getting this for years, right? Years. They're like, they already know the quality, their families had it, and they just like can't pull the trigger on it. I was trying to get this guy closed, and then all of a sudden he's like, yeah, my wife has, my girlfriend has a booth here, she's selling dresses. So I already written up the VBAC sheet for him. And I knew this is one of the guys that like, you're going to have that sheet, you're going to have that number, you're going to keep calling him, and he's just like, not ready, not ready, not ready. So as vendors, we know we always try to support each other. So I was like, well, where's your wife selling? She goes, oh, she sells a handmade dress. She used to make stuff for Ralph Lauren, and now she does it by herself, where he sews, does everything, makes it. So let me see it. And they're expensive dresses. Like it was a $180 dress. But I bought that dress because it closed the homemaker right there on the spot. So not only did I still profit $500, he's going to be a future customer. Got a good relationship with him now. And so everyone liked the dress, but I'm gonna give it to my mom. So it was more of a, it was very nicely made. It's more of like a hippie kind of thing, but we sent the picture, said she loves it. It's great relationship builder, but I know my mom will like it if anything. But that was a close and a drop down without having to actually like change a set or change anything, but just to getting him to commit because I was supporting his girlfriend while he was supporting my business, which was awesome. And one other funny thing, because I'm pretty much about done on time, but like content wise, one of the drop downs I did a couple weeks ago on a service call, they had a few pieces, but like 5 pearl table knives and 3 classic table knives. So I did a whole custom homemaker upgrade for them. It was like 1,000, it was like 1,100 something, 1,000 CPO. And as I got to the close, he's like, was there anything else you could do on price? And I was like, I could have probably done a great deal on price. But I was like, I don't make the price of Cutco, but what I can do for you is, you know, those, I know it really bothers you that you have like mismatched table knives. So if you want to actually have 3 brand new pearl table knives, I'll just swap out with you for those classic ones so that all of them match. And he's like, all right, here you go. Because it irked him so much because it hit that pain point. So a drop down without dropping down is the best way to do it too. So that's what I've got for you guys. I believe that's my time. And those are going to help a lot. Like I said, those are 2 of the most important things you can do for if you're selling at events. Drop them down and handing aid sections.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you, Brad. Hallelujah. Awesome. Takeaways. Calvin.
This first slide. A trimmer today is better than a homemaker later. So,
Yes. Yes, that was the first thing I wrote down too. Any others? Boss.
Super money, I'm on cash, but I'll buy a full set or a few pieces, but I just wanna help them get something that you're gonna feel comfortable with, that's gonna solve the problem. in the kitchen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Big guy.
for sure. Faith.
Yeah, most of that.
Josh.
Yeah, one thing that I just noticed he does a lot with his customers with a lot of enriching questions is just creating a lot of trust with the customer, which allows him to get on the right package.
Awesome. Any others? Yeah.
Emphasizing while you are here at the booth right now
Yeah.
versus at the fair today.
Yeah,
See how serious they are.
more specific. It's good. Fonz, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I like the, thing where he says, a couple take 2 and then they take the same, or they all take 2, the last one together,
Yeah,
kind of getting a little bit more involvement with the.
with the custom 5-piece. And then else, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, it was in the beginning when you were talking about just making sure you're getting both of them talking, no matter who's the cook or who's the buyer, just because like that happens a lot. They look at each other and it's like the one person's not talking and then they walk away. So I've seen you do that a lot of times and you're like, it seems like she's on board. You want to do this? And you're like, all right.
Like I said, it's like, she
Like
said,
you just
wants it, are you okay with it?
Yeah.
It's awesome. Noah.
I liked it, dropping down doesn't always just mean going to a smaller set or package. You know, be creative, be a problem solver, do like a 10K or 15K if I have to.
Yeah. It's good. Awesome. Any others? No? Oh, no. I just like how, it was like, oh yeah, Curtis, you don't like the word budget? Oh, okay, well, I'm still gonna use it, but. Screw you, I'm still gonna use it.
And do it ultimately when the customer is not anybody.
Mhm.
When I say I don't like the word budget, because I will listen to you lay it at the show specifically for the information. So it comes off condescending, and it comes off arrogant, it comes off rude. So I am just prepping for the reps that don't know how to use that word properly, to not say it, so that you don't sound like an idiot when you're in a customer. Yeah, no, that doesn't fit your budget, like, you're making them feel like shit and you're trying to get them to buy something. Whereas it's like, oh, it's something that you can't afford today, it's something to get next thing. Like, it comes off as if you're a naive young person, you're just like, hey, no, we do something. He's saying budget in a different way, so literally, if you're price sensitive, you're still trying to get customers. He's not saying you can't afford this, it's just like, you have given me permission to use the word budget, as you're saying. afford it. So I'm not gonna say, oh, you can't afford this in front of all these people that are around. It's just, if I still can't give you a great price. Then that customer is like, yes, when you're in agreements at that moment, that's when you can use the word budget. But not where you start off the line, is this something you budget today? Like.
Perfect. Awesome. All right.
That kind of clear.
Yes. Oh, wait, what was it? Takeaway or a question? Oh, okay. I was like, what? All right. So, our final speaker before Q&A here, he's at $1.6 million in career sales. His career highlight is Silver Cup 2023. He has a wife, Riley, 2 dogs, Humphrey and Samson. His greatest life achievement, marrying Riley. His superhero name that he texted me 10 minutes ago, Southern Slice.
Nice.
He loves his job because of, wait, is that the right one? Yes, okay. Loves his job because of time, freedom, and the ability to build client relationships and the ability to contribute to a lot of different people across the company. And, wait,
I think,
did you guys have to say?
I think you said mine for his, so like mine sounded similar, but I don't know if it was that.
I just stopped being based on what you guys texted me, so
Yeah, because I think you said the same exact thing from me.
okay, I was like, wait, this is
It
some
was still
other.
working, it's good.
Well, they had the same thing, but so he's also passionate about this talk because wait. Oh yeah, see now you guys are just confusing me. Okay, because of the long-term ripple effect this layer, business gifts, can have on the lives of people in the room. So give it up for Philip Tice talking about business gifts.
What's up? Hey, let's get it. Who in here has sold business gifts this year so far? Awesome, that's almost the whole room. That's freaking great. Come on, Foss, we gotta get you, bro. No, I have a strong belief that the business gifts is one of the huge layers of the future of this company, and over the last 3 or 4 years, it's really taken off. Especially, you know, from the industry program. Been around for 15 years, 20 years or so, but it's really started to pick up steam over the last 3 or 4 years, and it's starting to trickle over into our residential events. And I sell a lot of industry events, but I sell even more business gifts at my residential events, which is crazy. And everybody in this room, no matter what team you're on, we're all working residential events. And I was talking to Nick last night. We didn't sell one business gift order at the fair last year.
No, 3.
Not one.
Oh.
That was, according to Nick, that's what it looked like. So, which shocked me, and I know I didn't sell any. I know I had a couple of people I spoke to, but I didn't close any at the booth, which is wild. And a couple of the other fairs I worked, to see the amount of gifting CPO we're closing at the booth, it is going to be a massive bump to these fairs if we could just add that layer on top of everything else we're already doing. My goal today is to teach you guys how to get those orders at the booth versus here's my card, call me later. Okay. So one thing to understand is that the time of year that these fairs are happening is the time of year that gifts are being purchased at a high level from all companies, not just big, not just small, it's everything in between. And so it's not one of those things where we're talking to them early in the year, oh, we do that later in the year, and let's have that conversation later. No, we're in the sweet spot. And, you know, August, September, to start closing those gifts right away, okay? Virtually every business is fair game, no matter what they do at that point of the year. I want to share a little bit of history on where this message came from. Because my career, I was in management until 2021, and then I became a CSP in 2021 and started selling full time. And that first year, about 6 months into the year, I started picking up on business gifts. And over the first year or two, I was pitching, and I was getting some stuff, but I just wasn't closing at the booth. And trying to be more efficient, I was like, how can I convert more of these people here on the spot? And so
then came in 2022, the birth of the pilot program, for me at least, in my business. And something I just heard somebody say, and then I started just sharing it at the booth, and then people were starting to buy, because a pilot program makes sense for companies, because they pilot things all the time to just try them out, right? So it makes a lot of sense for them. 2023 comes along, and I was like, for these people who don't want to get the pilot program, what's the drop down that I can do? And then I've built in a smaller version of the pilot program, which I'll share in a second. And then this past year, I added samples to my drop down. And so basically, this is going to be a message on how to close the orders, the full scope of the order at the booth. But then I'm also going to teach you how to drop down properly with business gifts. So you don't just go from, hey, this is what we do. Do you want to get these gifts? Oh no, I'll just follow up with me later. Like, how do we bridge the gap and build you some more runway in between to try to close some CPO at the booth? But I was doing a lot of events, and I wasn't closing orders. Who's ever pitched a business gift at the booth and gotten the, oh, just call me later? All right, who's closed the business gift at a residential event? Okay, cool. So they happen, but they can be difficult sometimes if you don't do it correctly. I got a lot of leads, talking to a lot of people, and I found myself drowning in follow-up every like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, which follow-up is great and there's an art to it, but the goal here is you're already talking to the decision maker most of the time at the booth. They're shopping. They have their card, the product's right there in front of you. That's really the best opportunity we have to close something, so we need to try to get it there, right? So I want to talk about a couple of different ways that we can get gifts. What does it look like to get people to buy gifts? Who are they buying them for? The obvious two are clients and employees. That's very obvious, okay? There's different layers of employees though. There's within like the employee category, it could be board members, depending on how big or what type of company it is. For service-based companies, it could be technicians, and there could be office people, handling two different parts of the business. There could be the ownership group, whether it be one or two partners, or it could be, multiple partners throughout the business. And then within the client category, there's big clients and small clients, right? Another one would be referral partners. Another one could be suppliers. I had somebody 2 days ago buy gifts for their suppliers, because whenever they're in a crunch and they need some more material, these people always come through for them. So like, we want to spend money on them this year to show them that we appreciate that, right? Could be distributors, would be a big thing. Could be a company that I talked to a company at the fair last year. They make cosmetics. They wanted to look at buying gifts for the people who distribute their product for them, right? So as I'm going through this, and as you're having conversations with people, one thing to understand is that you're not perfect. You don't know as a company. You don't know the structure of every company, but you want to always be humble enough and vulnerable enough to ask the people you're talking to, hey, tell me more about your business, right? Like, I remember being new and thinking I knew everything, and I was just hardcore pitching clients and employee gifts because that's what I was taught. And I never took the time to try to understand the businesses. And I would spend time researching businesses, but the quickest way to do it is the person in front of you. Just say, hey, like, I'm not familiar with how your business works. Can you tell me more about that? Like, who are your customers? Who are your employees? What do they do for you? Are you selling stuff? What are you guys doing? Like, tell me more about your business. And these are people who have been in business for a long time usually. They love their business. They eat, breathe, sleep it like we do Cutco. And they're going to be more than willing to share with you pretty much all the details you want to know, right? You want to get as much ammunition as possible, so when you get to later, when you're trying to close, you've got all the info you need. The number one question, there's two big questions I'm gonna share with you today. Number one is, what do you do for work? That is simple. This is something that I can truly say, and if you've worked with me, you can say this. I truly ask every single person I talk to, what do you do for work? It is a reflex for me at this point. It is disguised as a report building question. So if it doesn't land the right way, that's fine. Oh, I'm a teacher. There's probably not a gift opportunity there. There might be in a special scenario, but probably not. Oh, cool. How long have you been a teacher? That's awesome. Transition back to what you were talking about. right? But if it lands, now you can either dive into it right then, or if you're pitching residential, which we are, it's in your back pocket. At the end of whatever you're talking about, you close it or don't close it. That's when you bring it up. Oh, by the way, earlier you mentioned this. You know, have you heard about what we do for businesses like yours? And then you've got a whole nother pitch that you can share with this person that you just did a regular pitch with, right? So what do you do for work needs to be asked to every single person you're talking to at some point in the pitch. That's how we're identifying these people. I used to believe, and the reason I started working industry events in the first place, I used to believe you had to work an industry event to talk to business owners. And that is not the case at all. Like I said earlier, I've sold way more business gifts at residential events than I do at industry events. Okay, the people that we want to sell gifts to, they're right in front of us. We're just not being intentional in figuring out if they are a business owner or not, or if there's an opportunity there or not. And a lot of times they're the people you're selling sets to, right? So instead of wrapping the order up and, you know, famous let go, and then, you know, in the day, you can ask those people who already spent $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, what do you do for work? And now, talking about shift averages, Calvin, now you've got an opportunity to get a 5, 6, 8, 10, 15K or bigger order at that booth. And you talk about what that does for shift average. That's wild, right? Like, I worked an event in Dallas or in Fort Worth in January. I had 2 bad days, 1 okay day. And then I had one day I dropped 12K because I had a couple business gift orders. And that averages out really quickly. 12K day will wipe a bad day right off the slate. You know what I mean? And we're all gonna have bad days, but we need to make sure that we're maximizing our opportunities. So when they're in front of us and we have that potential, we need to make sure that we're getting them, whether it be an ultimate, you know, package deal, or even, you know, business gifts, obviously, as we're talking about. So what do you do for work? Pitch the gifts. I'm not gonna go into the script, but I am gonna make an offer for you guys at the end for some extra time with me next week. To role play some stuff, but pitch the gifts, and then you want to inquire about the scope of the opportunity. This is a big section I'm going to spend a good bit of time on. Okay, what does the scope look like? What does that mean? So the scope of an opportunity is figure out, one, like, how many and who would they give gifts to potentially? That's what we're figuring out. So those different categories of people I spoke about earlier, you're going to ask and see who in those categories fit for the person you're talking to, and how many. And then you want to ask your question. This is the second big question, is who would you spend at least $100 on for a gift like this? This is going to save you guys a lot of time. Who would you spend at least $100 on for a gift like this? I've had so many people that say, oh, dude, we've got like, you know, 150 employees. And I'm like, oh my God, dude, this is like 15K order potential. That's great. And I'm spending their money for them. And I don't even know like what that looks like for them. So then you know, a year or two ago, I started asking this question, because I'm like, dude, be real with me. Like, are you going to buy 150 gifts from me right now? Or what does that look like? Because when I would follow up with people, they're like, well, we wouldn't actually buy those. So now I'm just going to ask that at the booth. So like, out of the 150, who would you spend at least $100 on? If they say all of them, great. But most of the time, it's a smaller number than what they said, who they said worked for them. So it could be, oh, like our top 20 or our top 50 or, you know, whatever that looks like. Could be our top 20 clients, could be, you know, our you know, tenured employees or whatever that looks like. And now you went from a sexy 150 that will probably never happen, and you're just chasing a rabbit you're not going to catch, to now we're maybe around like 20, 30, 40, whatever that smaller number is, but you have a real shot at closing that deal, right? So it's not about getting the number as big as possible. It's about getting a number that's more realistic. Like, what is actually going to happen or could happen? Because you don't want to spend all your time trying to close something that's not even a possibility. That was just them blowing smoke and you didn't do a good job qualifying. Okay. Then we're going to move into closing. So let's say that number is, you know, 50. That they like, hey, we would for sure spend $100 on at least 50 people. Then there's tiers to this. Okay. The tiers inside that 50 is, okay, I know you'd spend at least $100 on these 50 people, is there anybody in that group that you might want to spend a little bit more on? Like, is there like a top group out of those 50? Figure out what that looks like. Figure out how much, okay, so how much would you spend on those people? And you're taking notes at the booth, right? Trying to basically map out what this looks like. And then you move into closing. You want to try to close the full scope of the order, meaning you've got, their top 20, they spend $200 on, and then the other 30, they spend $100 on. So you're looking at 50, 50 gifts, like maybe 22 pieces and 30 singles. You're going to ask for that order at the booth. You're going to build up, hey, like I said earlier, because we're at the fair, like if you want to do this later, that's fine, but because we're at the fair, we have special pricing for our business customers, right? So if you're open to getting this today, instead of it being this much per gift, we're going to bump you up in quantity to blank per gift. So when you're selling business gifts, to make it very simple and easy, it's not like residential where you're throwing in free stuff, unless there's something residentially they want or something specifically they've identified. The way that the top business gift reps give deals is we move up using the business gift price sheet from whatever quantity they're at. So if they're at 50 quantity, I'm going to say, hey, but since you're at the fair, normally it would be this much, but if you get it today, it's going to be at the 250 quantity, and it knocks off $8 or $9 a gift for them. And they're like, so you're going to bump me up 2 price breaks if I get it here. And that's how businesses shop. That's how they shop for everything. It's all about the quantity and the unit price. It's not about, give you $100 off or give you like 2 gadgets for free. That's not how they communicate, right? Unless you've talked about a residential order and there's something they really want, then you can leverage that. That's a different story, right? Close the full scope. And then if they say, I'm assuming they're saying no, close the pilot program. Who thinks the pilot program is just 10 gifts to start out? Is that like yeah. So the 10 gift thing is something that has been assumed for a while, but pilot program doesn't have to be 10 gifts. Pilot program is, what are you comfortable getting today? So people could be hemming and hawing over, like, we're looking at 50 gifts and they're like, man, I might need like 44, I might need like 46. And it's like, that's not really an issue for us. We're like, dude, get the 44 because you know for sure you need those. And if you need 2 or 3 more, call me and we'll just honor the same price. Like, it can be as trivial as 2 or 3 gifts that they're off about sometimes. And to them, it's the biggest deal in the world. To us, we're like, I'm not going to let that get between me and a 5 or 6K order. Like, you know what? I'll buy you the extra 2 you think you may or may not need. You just pay for 44. I'll give you the extra 2. And then if you use them, great. And if not, give them away to family for Christmas. Right? Like, it's that simple sometimes. But pilot program is really just, what are they comfortable starting with today that they know for sure they're going to need? Okay. That number could be, 44 from 50. It could be, let's start with half today. It could be 20. It could be based on what you're looking at and how you feel about them buying. It could be 10, right? I like to use the number 10 when I'm dropping down as almost like a hard line. One, for us, it's a bigger order. It's like a minimum quantity. And on the price guides that we have, the price sheets, it says 10 plus is the smallest quantity, right? So when you're communicating, everything is congruent. It's like, well, we usually start with at least 10 gifts, right? Can we sell somebody 1 or 2? For sure. The sheet says 10. We're going to stick with 10. And then the next part is you cut the pilot program in half. So let's say, I'm showing them 10 gifts and they're like, we really just don't want to get us today. And so you want to figure out why. Like, we're having this conversation. They're obviously interested if you're this far. They don't want to get 10. So this is where you have an opportunity, if you frame it the right way, to build major value with them and trust and get something close. So somebody, if we're at like, we're dropping down again, I might say something to the effect of, hey, like, I'm just curious. I can tell you really want this. I can tell this is going to bring a lot of value to your company and your people that you're going to give them to, but you probably just weren't expecting to buy, 10 or 15 of these today. Is that right? I'm like, yeah, exactly. Like, we just weren't planning on doing that. Cool. But hey, by the way, like, most people don't come to the fair expecting to do that. And if you don't want to buy that many today, like, that's fine. I know the sheet says 10. But I'm the rep, I'm the one that's gonna be working with your account and your order. I can manually make it less than 10 if I need to, right, just for you since we're here at the fair. And they're like, oh, okay. So I'm just curious, if you were to start with some, how many would you be open to starting with? Would you start with like 5 or 6 or like, what does that number look like? And then they'll just tell you, like we could probably start with like 7. I just don't want 10. Okay, cool. Hey, by the way, I'll honor the pricing at 10 since we're at the fair, even though you're only getting 7. And then if you need more later, just let me know. We'll lock in at the same price. Right. And they're like, oh, dude, you do that for me? Absolutely, I would. So now I went to closing 7, 1 or 2 piece sets versus I got a card and the follow up for later. It may or may not close it and it doesn't count for the fair. Then there's another drop down after that, which I added this year, and it's worked beautifully. We used to talk about buying people samples and sending them samples, and that's an art in itself. Who do you give them to? Who's serious and who's not? What's your budget? Right? Like after you send the sample, like, well, first, how do you even send it? Like, how does all this work? Okay, you got to track down their logo, all that stuff. You're making a big investment, and it's hurting your profitability in a lot of cases. The goal is to send as many samples as possible and keep your profitability high. You don't want to keep your costs as high, right? So this year I started offering people a sample program. If they're serious about it, I'll just share it with you. So, hey, by the way, I know you don't want to really get anything today, but it sounds like this is something you're probably going to get down the road, right? They're like, yeah, of course I am. Okay. Well, we normally don't do this, but since we're at the fair, I can tell that you really want to do this. I can let you order one. This is a sample, right? We'll go ahead and get your logo set up in the system. You just pick out, what you want to see. We'll get your logo engraved and ship it to you. And then I'll touch base with you here in like 3 or 4 weeks, see how it turned out. We'll see if you want to actually place an order, right? So you're almost acting like it's not really an order that day. It's just a sample to kind of test it out, right? Yeah, exactly. They're buying it. Okay. The way you communicate is the product price at 10 quantity is, 108. Hey, so the price is going to be 108. We're going to honor it at 10. And then since it's your first time, we're going to get your logo on file. It's a one-time $50 fee for setting up your logo, and you'll never pay that again. So if you order again, like a month or 2, you don't have to pay that. That's just a one-time thing to set it up. And then there's just tax and shipping, right? And they're like, cool. Yeah. And then you'll put the logo in there for me and I can see it and talk to my team about it. Yeah, exactly. And then I'll touch base with you about it and we'll go from there. And they're like, cool, let's do that. Like they don't care about spending a couple $100 on a sample. Here's what happens. They're on your ROR. They're in the system. They're getting marketing now. They've bought a sample and you haven't spent money on it and you've actually made some money on it. So we're completely flipping that conversation. Like the equation is completely flipped. Instead of you spending $100 more on a sample for somebody that you're like, I'm not even sure about. Now they've bought the sample, you've made money on it. And here's my favorite part about this. If they buy a sample, they are 5-star qualified. They invested something into it. They got the logo, they got the sample. Like they're not going to do that if they're not serious. And so by dropping down that far in the cycle, people will disqualify themselves for you. So instead of you talking to 20 people about gifts at the fair and getting really excited about all these opportunities and 90% of them don't go through, now you've got 7 or 8 of those 20 that bought a sample at the fair or bought something. And now you got it counted towards your sales at the fair. The fair is going to grow. Your shift average goes up. You lock the client in, you got a new ROR customer, and you've got somebody you can follow up with after the fair that's super qualified that you can probably close a bigger order on. And then tag that back to the fair because they came from the fair, right? I've had about between 15 and 20 people this year that I've done this with on the sample program. And I've had about a third of them have already ordered a second order. Okay. Here's the second part. Something that a customer taught me is I was selling them a sample. And it came down to, well, we don't know even what we would want as a sample. So I said, what are you guys thinking about? Well, we're thinking about this lockback and we're thinking about maybe that hunting knife. And then we're also thinking about this set and then this 2-piece set and then maybe the spreader, maybe the shears. I'm like, look, that's a lot, but we normally don't do this, but I'll tell you what I'll let you do because it sounds like it'd be valuable to you guys. I will let you buy one of each of what you're thinking about. That way you have it, it's all engraved, it's all ready to go. You can look at all of them and then whatever you decide you want to move forward with, then we can order a batch of whatever that is. So you're not locked into buying 10 or more of each item. They can just be samples for you. And then we'll talk about what that looks like later, which one or two or however many you want to order down the road. And now I got it was almost like 800 or 900 CPO order of samples because of the drop down process. They got the samples they wanted. Now I don't have to buy them samples. I made $450, right? It counted towards my sales. They're on my ROR list. Profitability's up. And now, how qualified is somebody that spent that much on samples? Pretty qualified. But here's the thing. It's completely normal for businesses to do that. I was looking at ordering hoodies or something for our show team in Alabama last year. And I was like, I don't know what I want to order. Can you guys send me something? They're like, well, we don't send stuff, but you just want to buy one of one of this and one of this and one of this, we can do that. And I was like, oh my God. That's what we're going to start doing at the booth. This is exactly what we're going to start doing. Reach. Yeah, it was great. So then what do we do after that? Because there is one more drop down. It's not going to be a sale for you usually, but it is a drop down to qualify somebody. If they don't want to do any of that, they don't want to buy the sample, they don't want to buy a pilot program or anything, then you say, hey, I can tell you're really interested in this, but I'm not sure if this is something that you actually might want to do down the road. Is this something you could see you and your company doing sometime later this year? Yes, we definitely would. Okay. Would you be open to me investing in our relationship? And I'm open to buying a sample for you if it's something you're serious about. And I'll ship it to you and we'll have your logo on it. And then we can just touch base in 3 or 4 weeks to see if you want to place another order. So you still can buy samples for people. Your budget's significantly larger because 95% of the samples you would have bought, they're buying, right? But what happens is one of two things. Yes, you can absolutely buy me a sample. That would be helpful. People are usually not going to do that if they're not interested. So now, guess what? They've qualified themselves. They didn't buy that day for whatever reason, but they're qualified. You should still send them a sample. The people who are not interested and were too nice to say no are going to say, you know what? You don't have to do that. I'm good. And if they do that, I'm not saying don't follow up with them, but they're a little bit lower on the list, right? May send them a monthly email or something, but I'm not hounding those people every 2 weeks trying to, get something on the calendar. Okay. Here's which part? Buying the sample?
Yeah, I can see your interest in this.
I can tell you're interested. It seems like something that, from what I'm hearing, will bring a lot of value to you and your company and the people you give them to. But I'm not sure if this is something that you would actually do later this year. Is this something that you would be open to doing at some point later this year? If they say yes, great. Then you offer, hey, I would love to invest in this relationship. And I would like to personally buy you a sample, send it to you. So you can see what it looks like. And then we'll just touch base in 3 or 4 weeks after you get the sample. Right. Yep. Here's the back end of this. Follow-up orders after the fair count for the fair, right?
Yep.
So we talked about this last year. So you can help your fair numbers even if you don't close it at the booth. This happens with residential, but it happens a lot with business gifts. Do your follow-up after the fair because it will count towards your stats for the fair. Okay, he can elaborate on what that looks like. But if you get leads, do your follow-up and then make sure, and this is the kicker, you tag them to the fair. Potentially, we could hit 500K or more for Wisconsin this year. And then we could literally have another 100K or so in follow-up orders if we just do that on the back end. Right? Like if we all got one or two follow-up orders, it'd be hard to believe we wouldn't get at least 100K out of that. Right? And we could tag them to the fair, and this is how we grow an extra layer for our events. So, my last thing, am I good for like 60 seconds? So my last thing I wanted to offer, because I don't have a lot of time today to do this, is Monday at 11 a.m. Central Time, and I'll post this in the group meeting. I'm gonna hop on Zoom. You're all welcome to come. You don't have to come, but I'm gonna hop on there if anybody wants to role play and ask me questions about business gifts at the booth. I'll be there from 11 to 11:45 Central Time. So that's open invitation. You don't have to come, but if you want to, just kind of talk more when we're not on time crunch, I'm open to doing that for you guys, and I will hopefully see you there. So thanks, guys. Huh? No, it's free. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Southern Slice.
Oh, Southern Slice. Awesome. Get bitches, man. Get bitches, man. Yes. Awesome. Yeah, I definitely love the, you just have them pick out, or if they don't know like which samples they want, or if they're like, you know, thinking of a few, you're just like, well, which ones are you thinking about? But like, I'll let you buy all these samples you're thinking about. I don't normally do this. But then when you figure out what you want, then you can be called, we'll order the rest of them. That was pretty sweet. Takeaways.
Someone.
Yeah.
Right, Josh.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, just really identifying how many are they really looking at, because so many times it's like, oh, you have 150 employees, and that, you know, you get that like, oh, this is gonna be awesome. And then just really asking some of those follow-up questions. Hey, who would you spend that $100?
Figuring out their business and what it actually looks like, because I have generally just pitched clients and employees, but their business could be a lot more complicated, and so I gotta learn more about it so I know exactly what I'm pitching before we can start pitching.
Yeah, I just love, you know, hearing Philip and even like Andy Jonty, you know, just saying like, if you don't understand their industry, just ask them. Like, I'm not familiar with your industry. You want to tell me about it? Like, if when people ask us about what we do, like Philip said, we light up like, oh yeah, let me tell you about it. Right? Curtis.
I think a key thing is pilot program. It's not always 10, but I've also noticed that when a customer says they want 150 and then you do the pilot program, sometimes we get them on 50, or we get them on 25. So just understand, like what we said, well, how many would you start with the pilot program?
Yeah.
Very key line to say, because sometimes you'll have that person who thinks 500. You're like, well, we'll do at least 100, and I closed 100 walk back by going.
Like, how many do you know for sure you need right now? Yeah, it's good. Faith?
I don't know if you guys noticed this, but just so many like subtle like constantly checking, is this gonna be good fit? Is this something, because at the booth, we're just so stoked on value for customers, like, oh, this pleaser, you're gonna love it, you know, we're just so hyped. And this pitch is just so professional, so to the point, and so it's just such a good reminder that it's like.
Right.
So just to go on another point that Curtis was just saying, is that when it comes to the pilot program, yeah, you don't want to sell 10 when maybe you're ready to buy 100. So I was thinking the pilot program used to be something, but now the way that we're saying it now, is essentially how many they're comfortable with to start, even though it's not how many they ultimately need.
Yeah, awesome.
I just wanted to thank you, Philip, because I can tell you're a pioneer in this new layer of our business that we're growing, and just thank you. I've seen that it's evolved even from last year's message. And I know it's not easy because you're kind of figuring it out and then not having us having to figure it out. So I just want to thank you for that knowledge of that. So.
Any other takeaways? Cool, awesome. I also loved, what was it? Oh yeah, so when they tell you like how many clients they have, and then you ask, well, how many of those would you spend at least $100 on? I just love how direct that is. And then out of those, say 50, how many of those would you spend a little bit more on? Like, that's awesome. Great, all right, so this next part is Q&A. So let's go ahead and bring up Green Lantern, Get Bitches Man, and Southern Slice. So y'all can just come up right here, try to get in the camera if you can.
Just a quick update, you all heard all the crinkling pans and everything, you know the food's here. Q&A is still really important, so let's stay focused, the food's not gonna go cold. So it's still gonna be there, so.
Don't worry, you'll get
15,
the food.
20 minutes. Don't worry.
I talked to Jen, I talked to the chat and said, superhero name for a guy from Alabama that sells knives. And it said Southern Slice.
Bro, that should definitely needs to be here. All right. So we had Calvin talking about ultimates, Brett talking about dropping down, hitting objections, and Philip talking about closing business gifts at the booth. So question, comments.
Yeah, this is for Philip. So, my question, when it comes to talking about business gifts at the booth, and I'll give you a personal example to kind of see what you would do in a situation. So a lot of times, I feel like I get excited talking about the sets and everything like that, and then I find out that they own a business, or whatever, and I want to tell them about the program, but we spend so much time, you know, closing a residential, that by the time we get to that point, it's like, I'm gonna go through another demo, or on their end. So how do you approach that? Because like I had an ultimate set, and then the cop found out he, you know, owned the business or whatever, and then right when I was getting ready to go to the business gift, his spouse was like, no, let's take care of this, and you guys can talk about that later, right? So how do you like prevent that, or how do you introduce?
Yeah.
You know, like how would you handle that situation?
It's just like, hey, I know you guys are busy, like call out what's going on. Hey, I know you're busy, we just spent a lot of time talking about this. Real quick, before you guys go, because this is important, is this something that you guys do for your business? Like if you've already kind of shared a little bit, it's like, hey, what do you, like, is this something you would consider doing? Because if you would, if you got like 60 seconds, I could just show you real quick what it looks like here at the fair. And if you want to do it, great. If not, that's fine too. Just like condense it real small and try to buy like a minute or two.
Really, it's just breaking it down to them and saying, hey, I know you feel like it's gonna take a long time to explain this, but it's not.
Yeah, or even just say, hey, like, I know we spent a lot of time there. This is not gonna take that long.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
I will say in that scenario specifically, what I would do, all you do is, hey, just so you know, if you want, we don't have to spend a whole lot of time on it, but you can actually just put a nameplate with your logo on it, just so that way we can get it on file and get you started. And then we can always follow up about the guests later, but that'll actually make this purchase right here tax deductible. Because it's
Put it on a name.
putting on a nameplate on the box sets.
Yeah. Or this is really easy because $100 is $100, right? It's like, hey, if you were to do something right before you go, would you do something in the kitchen or something after like pocket knife? Oh, we'd probably do this. Okay, cool. I know we don't have time to talk, but if you want, we can order you a sample. It'll be like an extra $100 or $200, whatever. And I'll just send it with your set and we'll put your logo on it. I don't need your logo right now because you guys are busy. I'll just email it for you, in a couple of days.
Cool.
And they're like, yeah, just add one of those on. That's that easy.
They're buying both.
Yeah, or it doesn't matter, like, it doesn't matter if they're buying a 5-piece, if it's for their business, it's, yeah, and then like he said, hey, by the way, and if you add at least one gift to I don't like doing the plate thing, but it's like, if you add one gift with the logo on it, it's actually gonna be a business gift order, and your whole order is gonna be tax deductible too, so instead of your personal card, we can actually just use your business card. And they're like, shit, that's great, let's do that.
Yeah, one line that has worked for me in the past, like when you notice a logo or whatever, like purposely at the end of the demo, it's like, oh, is that your business?
Yeah.
Why don't we make this whole thing a tax write-up?
Yeah.
They're like, what do you mean? Let me show you.
Yeah.
Faith, you had a question?
Were you gonna add or did you have? Okay. I was at a realtor event and he was like, hey, I just have one closing. I just want to get something going right now. He was on team lead. So he's gonna do a snack food trimmer, $52 added on to the cost and then $35 shipping. So then he was turned off because it went from $110 to $200. Right? So when you're offering to allow them to buy one night and it doubles the cost of the one piece. Do you ever get that?
Yeah, realtors are different, like he was he or she, whoever,
Yeah.
was actually placing an order for a gift, not a sample. So that changes the dynamic, because a sample, it's like, yeah, it might cost a little bit more.
right? Because we're setting you up and all that, you're not even buying this necessarily to give it. But if he's like, I want a gift, I want one, it's like, sorry about your luck. Like, if you get one, like, this is our pricing if you get at least 10,
Right.
but if you get one, like, it's gonna be a much higher price because we're not getting like a run product.
Maybe that's something we could bring up to Cutco in the future. It's like, hey, if there is just one single thing, it's like,
Why would
maybe
you
it's
try to talk
$25, maybe it's like $20 shipping, or if you're using branding tools, branding tools is always 50, right? So it's like, this one sample, it's like, let's just ship this out.
Yeah,
Fair. Right.
So I'm always curious because everyone in this room, you always say, I have to think about it, I have to think about it, it's right, I wanna know, and you said in your talk, you usually say, hey, the best time is to do it right there, right in front of everyone, or you go back.
Yeah.
Let's say the customer's like, no, we need to go, we need to think about it. How do you handle that?
Yeah, so I say totally get it, again, understand them, and that's, if I didn't bring out my B-back sheet already, that's where I'm bringing that out. Because again, you're giving them permission to leave. It's like, hey, since we already did all this work for 10 or 20 minutes, let me at least write this down for you. Not only said you have that info because, again, you, like Ms. Jones, we're all independent, we all work strictly on commission, we pay to be here. So even when you do come back, if I'm at the bathroom or if somebody else, if you go to find us at a different booth, please give them this stuff so at least I could get credit. And if they're good enough people, they'll be like, all right, yeah, definitely do that for you. You spent the time with me. And then from there, I had my own B-back sheets made up. I'll share with you guys later. I'll show you a picture of it, but it's pretty much like the Cutco one. Then it has the 5-pay, it has scale of 1 to 10, C, W, R, like all that stuff. So you're asking all these questions, like the same way you're asking for a business gift client, like to really hammer out the details. So as you're writing it up, that's when you're asking those other questions, making sure you're on the right set, making sure that you're at the right price point by asking all those questions. And then if you are, if I could do something just like a little bit extra special for you, Brandon Moon was working with me at an event. It was a one-day event. It was like a new thing. It was kind of like just a higher quality food truck fest in Long Beach Island. Didn't need 2 people. I had 3 orders. That's on Alicia, but sold 7,500 on 3 orders. But as somebody who was looking at an ultimate set, maybe 20, 30 minutes, when you heard me say how many times I was handling their objections or keeping them at the booth, they were only at like a 4 or 5 on getting Cutco today. And just by hammering those questions, saying, hey, you're gonna use this anyway. They're like, well, we don't know if we use it for Florida or here. I was like, it sounds like you need it here, and then you could decide if you want to bring it to Florida. And that, like, they're at the end of the day, just keeping them at the booth, getting all those questions answered, making sure you're on the right price point, color, block color, just making sure they feel comfortable with exactly what they're getting, and then a little bit of an extra deal. I think I gave them the choice between kitchen tools or gadgets. So whatever it is, usually with an ultimate, I'll give people a couple of gadgets, especially to make it easy, I'll give them a few more. But when I had my biggest day ever at the Big E a couple of years ago, I realized I was closing those bigger sets because I wasn't letting them walk, because I was giving them some of those extra bells and whistles like obviously we're supposed to do, but very rarely change the price.
And then what's your let go when they say no?
Okay,
What's your let go to get them to come back?
Okay, so like, if they are leaving no matter what and I didn't get the order, it's like, great, I'll be here till 10 p.m., whatever it is. If you could do me a huge favor, just so I know, a no is way better than a maybe for us, just so you know. So you could go get your food, go watch the show. I know it's a big event, but if you could just do me the courtesy, like just come back 20 minutes, couple hours before you leave the fair, just let me know either way, whether it's something you'd like to do today, or you just don't want to do it all. And then some people actually do. And those people that do, at least, again, it gives you one more chance to try to close them. And if you can, if it just doesn't work, they can't afford it, great. I have your info, I use my list, but when's a better time? Since today obviously doesn't work, I know you weren't planning on doing it today or spending that much money, but when's a better time for your schedule? Maybe like, oh, we get a bonus next week, we get a bonus at the end of the year. And then that's where you could maybe get your post-dated order. Like I've had 2 or 3 post-dated signature and ultimates at the Big E last year or before, and they all went through because I qualified to answer the questions. Like, it's not that they didn't want it or couldn't afford it. It's like they could afford it next month or on that Friday when they got paid for at least the first payment.
Does that answer your question? Did you have a question?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, this is for Mr. Bitches.
I guess that's the new superhero.
Next
Like,
up, we're gonna edit.
Superman, Man of Steel. Mr. Bitches.
So I feel like my biggest area of opportunity is like, I
I get it, no. So, how do you?
Alright, like a lot of CPO, I think, on the table with people who either had a big like list and they were just on the fence and like, you know, I probably dropped the price a couple times and they were just really on the fence. Where do you kind of draw that line where, I guess I'm too far, where do you draw that line where you allow it to kind of do a feedback, or do you just go to that 5 Ds and then keep going? Where do you like find that sweet spot, and then when do you decide, hey, I'm just gonna drop down to 5 pieces?
So what are you dropping down from to go to the?
So it's probably like a 10 or 12 piece like list, like they said no to Siggy or something, and then we designed a like list, became a lot bigger than.
So are you asking them, just so clarity, are you asking them like what pieces that they like?
So we already have a piece like list, I've already given them that first price, they said they like it, they're on the fence, and then I've already dropped that, but I said, hey, if I give you a really, really good deal, drop the price, that's something you might be interested in doing today, they said yes, then I showed them that price.
Like
And then there was-
Yeah,
and then they were still on the fence.
So, you have to find out if it is more of a price thing, because at that point, it probably is a price thing, because if they already made the wishes, that is stuff that they want. So, if it's a matter of them walking away or doing it there, I'm gonna either take a piece or two out, like, hey, which ones can you live without for now to make it more affordable? Or maybe you have that, I don't know if certain fairs are allowed to give or not, maybe you have that extra paring knife, that extra peeler that you can give right on the spot, like, hey, I can't change the price of what you're getting, because I don't think the price is cut go, but as a little extra added gift for you, I have this right here, brand new, so you can take it home and feel great about your set, so you get immediate gratification right there, and they get $100 or $200 off their set, whatever they might be looking at. And again, that's only if you could give stuff on, but that's one of the ways I would handle that. But then again, if they're still like on the fence, you're doing that same stuff I just went through with Curtis, where it's like, you're doing the feedback sheet, you're asking all the questions, you get all the info, and then again, if they're at 10, 5 piece now is better than 5 piece later, and then you can also turn that into a 10-10. What's your 5 favorite that you really want from your wish list right now? We'll do that for today, June, July, August, September, October. And then in November, you actually have them all, the whole set for Thanksgiving and Christmas to use too, because that's when the next 5 will come out. And that's definitely if it was more of like an affordability thing, because those payments went from maybe 200 a month to 100 a month.
Yeah, question for Calvin. When you're talking about the ultimate, like, I know you said you like to get to price pretty quickly. Do you do any type of price comparison, or how are you positioning the price? Like, are you showing kitchen first, or?
So I will show like the kitchen brochure for sure. I definitely don't do a price comparison with like Wusthof or Shun or anything else, because what I've noticed for me personally, it just confuses them. It makes them wonder why we're even talking about other knives. So I'm comparing the price from what it should be versus the corporate discounts. Okay. So like, hey, just so you know, and then on top of the added bonuses are the freebies that I'm gonna give them or something else. Or if I need to, I will give them $100 off. I'm just.
Yeah, no, it's definitely won't stop from getting the sale.
I'm
100%.
gonna get the money if I can. So like, I'm using the price comparison of like, hey, this is what you should pay. This is what you're actually paying here today. And then on top of that, you're also getting this, this, and this, because I want to go above and beyond to earn your business. Like, I don't expect you to buy from me. I want to earn it. And this is my way of going out of my way for it.
And just to add one thing, when we're talking about like $50 off, $100 off, percentage off, just so that people get like a better deal, who are really looking for a deal because they're price shoppers as opposed to value shoppers. That dress that I bought the other day, he bought a homemaker for me, 1613 plus tax. I said the thing was 180. That's just pretty much a 10% discount essentially. Only my wife or mom gets something that she likes. I get a future customer. I'm in good standing with him and his girlfriend, and he already has a hunting knife and some other stuff on his wish list for down the road. And I had cash on me, so it was like free money.
Yeah.
Cash isn't real money.
Girl math.
It's fun. Oh yeah, just for sake of time here, I appreciate you guys, and the high powered CFP, like, stuff we're getting here. I wanted to, and I won't put you on the spot, but, just because I don't get to work with you all the time, Curtis, you have asked a really good question. I was wondering, is there a way that we can, or if it's appropriate, if you can get your response to your own question recorded on there?
So what are you saying? What do you say when somebody's like, no, I want to walk about a thing, but I'm like, have to walk around.
Good thing, Curtis is gonna be running a round table, so that is a
Oh,
great
okay.
question to ask. So, we have round tables later today.
Good say.
Lucky, did you have a question?
Oh, yeah, I did. Mr. Calvin, great to talk about. You guys might be doing it. Thanks for coming here. I know you said you have like a prediction, like for sure, for the pricing on the table. Like, what would you tell someone that's like kind of like when you're putting that out?
So what I do, like, I have the vast action sheet. I mainly like it because I have it flipped over with where it says like family program, upgrade, business gifts. It kind of just shows the main things. I don't mind flipping it over just so that way I can throw something out there. So I'm not leaving it out there all the time. That's something that I'm showing them when I'm ready to show them. So like, that way it's not like, oh yeah, just so you know, if you wanted to, you could spend $22,000 here really quickly. Like, just so you know, Cut was an expensive product with very high end. We're kind of like the Rolex of the kitchen. Or like something that I'm not really thinking out the whole. No, yeah, I'm not just leaving it floating there because I don't want to scare people away.
Yeah, that's why I asked.
So I have it flipped over mainly to the bundles and the other different option, and I use it when I want.
I know what thing you're talking about, and I liked it for those programs.
Yeah.
But since we do have the Cutco kitchen in our binder, I have that same pricing for like a metal sheet that I have, which is like the Cutco kitchen, so it just has like the 12.5, but it's not 22 something. But again, it does make it so that it maybe qualifies people a little bit more. So you could have it out, you could not have it out, but it's a nice thing to show because people are like, and when I'm talking about, oh, and this is the Cutco kitchen, if you want to have like everything, if you're either moving, renovating, or just want to get rid of all the old stuff and start fresh. And again, that's the biggest of everything. People get a Cutco kitchen for like 5-6 grand if they want. They get a small cookware set, small knife set, and a flatware chest. They don't have to get the biggest of everything. At least shows them what's possible.
100%. Something I wanted to add is, we haven't talked about the future customer list in the drop down process. This doesn't get any CPO for the fair this year. But if you're spending 5, 10, 15 meaningful, minutes with somebody and they just can't buy that year for whatever reason, you can pre-sell for the next year and it will help that current year. It will build the fair for the next year. You could send them tickets or marketing and invite them to come back and see you. And those people will come back and they'll just walk up and be like, hey, I want to get the set we talked about last year.
Yeah.
So if you're here to build for the long term, using the future customer list, explaining to them, hey, like, sounds like now is not the right time, but I would love to earn your business when you're ready. I have this thing called my future customer list. Would you be open to me adding you to that? And then I can invite you back to the fair next year. And if you have any sales going on, I can reach out to you about that too. And people are like, they love that. And this is after, there's no shot you're going to get them to buy that day. This is, yeah.
Like what he's talking about, I always use this as valuable too. Like, hey, this is something I can go ahead and let you in on. It's something I do for my personal customers. I do send out a monthly emails, recipes and things like that. I let them know if there's ever any sales or specials going on that are exclusive to my customers. So if you want, I can go ahead and add you to that. I just need your email and your phone number, zip code.
All right, probably final question, Fix.
Calvin, I just want to clarify, when you said when you're talking about all the pieces, you're like, get this here, this here, this here. Are you having all your pieces out or are you using the sets for life for sure?
I have boards. So I have an ultimate out at a minimum in front of me. So I have one board with homemaker pieces and the other board has the ultimate pieces. Yeah, so that way I can say like, oh, here's our basic set, here's our mid-size set, here's our full one and done.
Bucky, we could probably squeeze yours in.
Show us how to cut a potato. What do you do? How do you do it? Is the hardy slicer, they do it, how do you set them up? What does your station look like?
Well, so I have the two boards with my cutting board in the middle, and then I keep a happy customer list and I keep that other fold out. So like I can have pull back and have my brochures and everything else on the clipboard underneath, so that way I can pull them out as I need them. And then, so I'll keep the cutting board under my happy customer list. So that way, like the first thing they see is like, oh, I have like 15 or 20 pages of people that have signed like anywhere from 2 to 40, 60, 70 years, whatever it is. And that I can just pull back and be like, oh, I just happen to have a cutting board right here. I was making like a little joke. And I like have them cut with whatever we use to cut the leather that impresses them the most. I'll have them cut a potato with that. I'll cut it with a cheese knife or a 4-inch paring knife or a Santoku, like whatever I know is going to kind of catch them the most. And it's going to be, and they're just going to be like, this is crazy. Because like I'm looking for the wow factor. I want to re-anchor them down into like, oh, okay, I think we do need this. I'm looking for like whoever's the cook to be like, this is what our knives need to do at home. Like I want that effect really quickly because then I don't have to spend an extra 5 or 10 minutes building extra value. Like for me, it's about efficiency at high traffic events. If it's at a slower event, I'm not in a rush, but at high traffic events, I want to have a high order count. I want to have a high average and I want to get them in and out as quick as I can.
Awesome. Let's give it up. Yes, like Nick said, they will, we'll have roundtables later today, so you can continue to ask questions. All right, so we're gonna have lunch. We got, Qdoba.
Yeah.
Right, we got Qdoba. So, we have lunch for an hour, so be back here at 5. So you eat last.
We gotta let everybody know.
Yeah.
He didn't eat breakfast.